The world is waking up, and you finding your way here today is no coincidence. The spirit world always has a way of guiding us where we most need to be at the absolute perfect time. I'm your host, Lindsay Morlock, and you're listening to the Guided Podcast, where we explore how the spirit world works on our behalf to guide us along our paths. This is where you'll learn how to live a life that is both conscious and connected, so you can supercharge your pathway to healing and open to life's magic and miracles. Come along this journey to see how guided you truly are. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Guided Podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Morlock, and last week I shared a channeled message from the Conscious Learning Collective. This is a group of angelic beings who are offering guidance and support to us during these transformational times. These messages aren't just insights, they're energetic transmissions. Whether you consciously understand the words or not, your soul and body actually receives them. And I'll be diving more into how these transmissions work in an upcoming episode, so stay tuned for that. But one of the most powerful lessons on my own spiritual journey has been grounding higher dimensional wisdom into everyday life. We exist here in the third dimension, our physical reality. And while esoteric messages are beautiful, their true power emerges when we integrate them into our daily experiences. So moving forward, I'm going to be breaking down these transmissions each week and offering practical ways to apply Spirit's guidance. So today we're diving into the message, Collective Awareness Reversed, but now is a Powerful Ghostland. You'll find a link to this transmission in the show notes if you missed it or you would like to revisit it, but let's get started. Many of us have a tendency to dim our own light, compromising both ourselves and our authenticity in the process. I've said this before, but it bears repeating. Authenticity is not oversharing or vulnerability dumps on social media. While authenticity may involve sharing personal truths, simply revealing your vulnerabilities doesn't mean you're living an authentic life. Living authentically means aligning your life with your soul, with your values, and with your inner knowing. So, how much of your life reflects who you truly are versus who you think you're supposed to be? Are your choices driven by external expectations, societal conditioning, or fear-based limitations? Or are they guided by your heart and your intuition? Living an authentic life means being guided by your soul's true essence, your heart, your intuition. It's a life rooted in truth, in integrity, and in deep self-awareness, where your thoughts, your words, and your actions reflect your higher self and the true nature of your soul. When we're living authentically, we are deeply honest with ourselves about who we are, what we want, and how we show up in the world. We acknowledge both our strengths and our weaknesses without judgment. We allow our hearts to lead, even when others might judge us or misunderstand us or think we're crazy. We express ourselves, our beliefs, our art, our voice, without fear of rejection or judgment. We refuse to shrink or compromise who we are just to fit in or make others feel more comfortable. We allow ourselves to be fully seen, knowing that we are perfect because of our imperfections, not in spite of them. We live with integrity, aligning our soul's values and beliefs with our actions, regardless of outside opinion. We say yes when we mean yes. We say no when we mean no. We create a life that feels right on the inside rather than one that simply looks good on the outside. So ask yourself, if time and money and resources weren't a factor, if fear wasn't holding you back, how would you be living? How would you be spending your time? How would you be sharing your unique gifts with the world? Would you be doing what you're currently doing, or would you be living a life that you're not actually living right now? You see, the thing about authenticity is it's not about doing, it's about being. When we live in alignment with our true selves, our efforts feel effortless. We're energized, we're fueled, we're motivated. When we're out of alignment, even the simplest tasks drain us. We're going to feel tired, fatigued, and disconnected from the lives we're living. This is why it's so important to learn how to feel your feelings. This is why it's so important to pay attention to your feelings, because your feelings are always your barometer. They tell you when you feel good and when you don't. But the more we ignore our feelings, the more we allow our minds, and often our lower mind, our ego mind, to be the driving force in our lives. Because our ego mind tells us what our life should look like based on societal expectations rather than how it should actually feel. Our ego minds tell us that safety and success come from external factors like money and stocks and 401k performance and health insurance and homes and material possessions. Our egos tell us that we can't live authentically, pursue our dreams, and support ourselves doing what we love. Our egos tell us that staying stuck is safer than growing and evolving, that others know what's best for us better than we do. It tells us to compare ourselves to others using external validation as a measure of success rather than having us look within. It has us search outside ourselves for answers instead of trusting our own inner wisdom. And the list goes on and on. So most people dim their light, holding back their authenticity, holding back their gifts, holding back their personal power just to make others comfortable, to avoid discomfort within themselves, or to escape potential judgment and reaction. And this is largely due to societal conditioning. It's due to fear, and it's due to our subconscious programming. As a society, many people feel unsafe to be who they truly are. Maybe as a child, you were told to be quiet, so as an adult, you hesitate to speak up. Maybe you were told you were too much, too loud, too proud, too bossy. Maybe you were made to feel less than or not enough in countless ways. I remember a moment in 4th grade when my teacher questioned my honesty. I told her I turned off the water while brushing my teeth because that's what I had been taught to do. But instead of believing me, she called me a liar in front of the whole class. And I remember the shock, the confusion of telling the truth while someone in authority insisted that I wasn't. And you know what I did? I stopped raising my hand as much after that. And this is someone who told me I lied about something mundane like brushing my teeth. The truth is, we are surrounded by people who don't see us as we truly are. They see us through their own filters, through their own experiences. My teacher's reaction wasn't about me. It was about her. It was about her own judgments, her own assumptions. But in that moment, I felt misunderstood and I was embarrassed because this happened in front of a whole class of my peers. Experiences like this, both big and small, shape our conditioning. They teach us that being different, stepping outside the norm, risks rejection. And because belonging is a basic human need, we learn to adapt and conform and suppress parts of ourselves in order to feel accepted. The problem is when we allow these external circumstances to dictate our sense of safety, we lose touch with our authenticity. We might chase money, power, possessions, prestige, hoping it will make us feel secure. We shape our behavior around what others approve of, rather than what actually makes us feel good. But when we prioritize money over fulfillment, approval over belonging, and status over our heart's deepest desires, we throw ourselves out of integrity. And living out of integrity never leads to genuine happiness. At its core, integrity is the congruence of your inner truth and the actions you subsequently take in support of that out in the world. The fallacy in all of this is that we seek safety and belonging outside of ourselves. We look to others for approval so that we can feel accepted. We measure success by the size of our bank accounts and job titles and degrees and careers. We chase external validation to convince ourselves that we are worthy of love. But the truth is, we are safest and most secure when we follow our own authentic path. Straying from it only leads us into murky waters and hard lessons. This is why Spirit is calling us to find our true sense of safety within. This is why the message is about creating a new sense of home inside of yourself. And I recognize that not everyone has had the privilege of growing up in a home that felt safe. Maybe you were homeless. Maybe your home was filled with abuse or unpredictability. Maybe you lived in a beautiful house but felt neglected. Maybe you had security but never felt like you truly fit in. Maybe you had a home but were never safe from judgment and criticism. The truth is, we all have our own version of what felt safe or unsafe. And the way that played out in our early lives directly shapes our sense of security today. So when Spirit speaks of creating a home within yourself, when they call you to find a new sense of belonging and safety within, they are asking you to build the ideal home inside of yourself. To me, when I think about what home represents, home is where love is present. It's a place where we are free and safe to be our most authentic selves. It's a place without harm, without rejection, without ridicule. It's a place of rest, of peace and acceptance. It's where our needs are seen and witnessed and honored. It's a place where we can be raw and vulnerable and met with love. It's a place of deep trust and deep connection and unconditional love that never wavers. That is the ideal home. And because we are all human, flawed by design, I don't think anyone has experienced this perfectly. And this isn't about blaming or shaming parents. People truly do the best they can with what they have. And for some, that best led to terrible conditions. For others, life may have looked good on the outside, but still lacked something essential on the inside. No one comes through unscathed. It's all part of the soul lessons that we are here to learn and transcend. So your wounds are not your fault, but healing them is your responsibility now. And in that, there is incredible power. No matter what has made you feel unsafe being your true self, you can overcome it. No matter what your outer circumstances may be, you have the ability to create that ideal home within yourself. That is what allows you to feel safe enough to be who you truly are. Our sense of safety isn't determined by external circumstances. True emotional and personal freedom does not come from others. It comes from within. And that's not to say there aren't real dangers in the world. But when you create safety within yourself, you become deeply connected to your intuition so that if you are in danger, your inner knowing will guide you to safety. But so often, these external conditions are what lead us to dim our light. There are countless reasons why we hold ourselves back. Fear of rejection, judgment, criticism, fear of success, fear of breaking the mold and going against the grain, fear of outshining others, cultural, societal conditioning, fear of conflict, fear of making others uncomfortable, fear of expectations and responsibility, fears of being seen, being heard, and all the implications that come with that, fear of belonging or losing people that we love, past trauma, self-doubt, imposter syndrome, fear of our dreams actually coming true, fear of what others think, fear of being vulnerable, the good girl or good boy programming. I could go on and on. For me, I can literally go through each one of those fears and speak to numerous times where each has surfaced in my life at different points in time for different reasons. I think most of us can. But the reality is that we're humans living in a fear-mongering society. It's normal for fear to surface. What matters is your willingness to name the fear, see it for what it is, which is usually false evidence appearing real, FEAR, and learn strategies for processing it, moving through it in a healthy way so you can continue to move into your most authentic self. Living our most authentic lives is not about not having fear in making bold moves. It's about learning how to hold yourself through that fear in partnership with spirit and your intuition so you can move forward in a way that allows for your own expansion. For years, I followed the path that I thought I was supposed to take to build a career. I went straight to graduate school after college, earning my master's degree so I'd be qualified to work in higher education. I then spent a decade climbing the ranks in student affairs. And while I loved working with students and watching them grow as leaders, I couldn't ignore the toxicity of the environment the politics, the inauthenticity, and I wasn't immune to it. I was a constant people pleaser, building my career by being the yes person. People valued me because I never said no. But every time I said yes to them, I was saying no to myself. I abandoned my own needs, and over time, it drained me. I became exhausted, resentful, and judgmental, frustrated with others for not setting boundaries, even as I refused to set my own. I placed the need for approval over my own well being again and again. And when I transitioned into the corporate world, I carried that same pattern with me. I climbed the ladder quickly, became a chief operating officer. I had the salary, the title, the corner office, the flexibility to work remotely. To most people, it looked like the dream. And yet, despite the growth, the learning, and even the aspects of the job I enjoyed, I kept asking myself, now what? Externally, I had everything. Internally, I felt empty. So I took the leap. I quit my job to pursue my spiritual work full time. And in going against the grain, I faced 2 years of deep struggle. Imposter syndrome hit me hard. I questioned my worth and my value. I worried about what people thought about my business, my choices, my success, what my life looked like. I feared judgment for leaving a quote unquote good job, a home, a stable life for the uncertainty of entrepreneurship. I constantly compared myself to other healers, doubting my own gifts, and measured my success by society's standards, which only made me feel like I was failing. And at 40 years old, renting a room from a friend, I judged myself for taking what felt like a step down from homeownership. I share this because even though I chose authenticity, all of my fears and insecurities surfaced the moment I stepped into it. I had to learn how to hold myself through the discomfort, navigate my doubts, and keep moving forward. And today, my life looks completely different, not because of external changes, but because of my internal shifts. I'm nomadic. I don't have a physical home right now. I work remotely, deciding each day what meaningful work I want to focus on. My healing is my priority, and everything else fits around that. All of my belongings sit in a storage unit in Arizona. I have fewer material possessions and less of what society calls success. Yet, I feel more abundant than ever. I've redefined success. It's no longer about revenue or what's in my bank account. It's about how I feel: joyful, fulfilled, at peace. And if I'm being honest, I'm shocked by how much lighter I feel with less. The more I release, the freer I become. And now I'm driven by impact, not image. People look at my life and say, wow, you really sacrificed to follow your dreams. But it wasn't a sacrifice. It was a choice, a conscious decision to live authentically. For years, I had everything I thought I wanted, but I was deeply anxious, depressed, totally unfulfilled. I had a life I constantly wanted to escape, a life where I needed vacations, where I shopped aimlessly through stores just to kill time, and all of this just to get through the day-to-day. It was a life that left me feeling completely trapped. Now, I've built a life I don't need a vacation from. I don't give up the things that bring me joy. I still buy my luxury face cream. I adopted a dog who has me wrapped around her little paw, and I happily spend all of my disposable income on her. But what I have given up is the illusion that external success equals happiness. And the most profound shift? I've stepped into a level of personal power I didn't even know was possible. Living in such deep integrity with my heart didn't just make me feel good. It helped me remember my worth. I'm living a life I once thought was impossible. I had a million excuses why other people could quit their jobs and follow their dreams, but I never believed I could. And yet here I am. I have never known this level of joy, of freedom, of peace. I will do this work for the rest of my life because I know its power. I live its power every single day. And how many people can truly say that they are deeply, truly happy? It wasn't until I committed to living my most authentic life that I stepped into this level of happiness into this level of joy and into this level of worthiness. Because this is what happens when we stop living by society's expectations and start living for ourselves. At my lowest, I was living a life others told me I should live, or I was passively moving through life, letting it push me around instead of owning and creating the life I truly wanted. I no longer do that. And I hope if you take anything away from this podcast, you won't either. I have an abundance of time, of love, of inner resourcing. That doesn't mean I don't face challenges, quite the opposite. But I've learned that authenticity means listening deeply to ourselves, to our emotions, and allowing our intuition to guide us. Even the emotions that feel uncomfortable are pointing us towards something we desire. My life looks nothing like I imagined happiness would require. Yet here I am, living my best life, even after enduring a period of extreme challenge and stormy weather. We all have the ability to rise above our external conditions. That is the power of authenticity. When we shed the masks, when we release identities that no longer serve us, we uncover who we truly are and step into alignment. But if we choose to stay safe behind those masks, if we let them shield our wounds and keep us stuck in old conditioning, we dim our light. We keep ourselves small. We let others dictate how we show up in the world. And speaking from experience, that does not create fulfillment. It doesn't feel good. It only leaves us disconnected from ourselves. So we've got to meet ourselves with compassion as we find our way back home. We have to be willing to face our fears, our wounds, and do the work to create true safety, security, and belonging within ourselves. This is the essence of healing. When we look at the world, at war, environmental destruction, political chaos, and corruption, it's easy to see a society that is steeped in fear, a world afraid to create anything but more fear. And this is why our healing right now is so critical. We cannot stay in a place of fear and expect to build a loving future. That is not how this matrix works. I know it sounds cliche, but what the world needs is integrity, authenticity, and love. And while that may feel like an impossible task when we look around, it begins right here, right now, with you. With deciding to awaken to your own potential, with choosing to make the unseen seen, choosing love over fear, choosing truth over illusion. When you hear the phrase, be the change you want to see in the world, please understand what that means. It means your focus needs to be on you, your healing, your alignment, because the truth is, hurt people hurt people. People who feel whole and happy and free share that love with the world. And you have the power to choose this consciously. You have the ability to create a safe, stable, and secure home within yourself, a space where you feel free to be exactly who you are. And when you do, you'll know how you're meant to contribute to humanity in a greater way. But even if all you do is shift your own energy, just that alone sends a powerful ripple into the universe. It's hard to ignore the reality of what's happening in the world, but we must stop feeding destruction with our focus. We must choose to focus on our healing and the world that we actually want to create. Please don't buy into the illusion. Yes, there's suffering. Yes, there is struggle, but you are not powerless. Politicians are not going to save us. We have to save ourselves. And that starts with you taking responsibility for your healing. The more we give ourselves permission to step into our light, to shine boldly as our most authentic selves, the more we force the external world to reflect our inner transformation. So I implore you, stop dimming your light. Step fully into your sacred power. Pay attention to the moments you play small. Notice when you hold back words because you fear how they'll be received. Observe where you're afraid to be seen or heard. Take stock of your worth and ask yourself, do I behave in ways that prove or seek validation that I'm worthy? Detach from the need for external approval. Cultivate stillness within so you can hear the truth within yourself. Now, I know the next question, how do I do all this? I know this feels overwhelming. I've always had coaches guide me through my own experiences, which is why I do this work for others. So if your intuition is nudging you towards transformation, toward creating your best, most authentic life, please reach out to me. I'd love to support you in learning more about how to make this journey possible for you. Until next time, everyone. Bye for now. Thank you so much for listening to the Guided Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would be so grateful if you would share it with a friend or even leave me a review so we can ensure that it makes its way into the ears of listeners who need to hear these messages most. Until next time, may you remember how guided you truly are.